several documentaries about this place. National Geographic has one. I saw a couple others. I even bought a book. It was not very complimentary about the Bible, but it had great history. So there's more that is unknown about Petra than what we know, because, like he said, 80 to 85% of it is underground. So the people that settled here, the Nabateans, were very simple, nomadic people. They were Bedouins, and they were reasonably poor at the time. They found this place, and it was a significant trade route between India, Yemen, Mesopotamia, Circle. So they found that they could control all the trade that went to the Mediterranean, that went to Egypt, and so they made this their home. We don't really know the size of their people, but he said, I read different things, anywhere from 20 to 40,000 people lived here at one time. Orange juice?
Yeah.
They were very wise people. This area gets about 14 inches of rain a year in about 3.5 months. Anybody know how much rain we get in Memphis? 54 inches. I have some land, so I track it. So we get about 55 inches. Dallas gets about 40 inches. San Antonio, my hometown, gets about 30 inches a year. They only get 14, 3.5 months. They had a very sophisticated way to collect, manage, and store water. And that was a significant thing if you're traveling from India or Yemen or Saudi Arabia to go to Egypt to say you're where. So they became a significant financial center and became very prosperous. But they were very curious people too as well. So they wanted to know about culture. Kind of like Catherine the Great. Remember her? She wanted to bring great culture. So they did that with the Egyptians, the architecture, the gods, and they embraced the ways of life and the culture of others. Egypt was one. Egyptian, the Hellenistic, Greek, and Roman, and even some Syrian. So, depending on the period of time, you can see the different areas and the elements they mentioned. And they did not have slave labor. From what I read, is they paid major craftsmen to carve the abodes that we see. One thing that I read, they have about 1,000 tombs here that have been found. People lived in them, they were buried in them. One thing I read, that if you went to every place that we could see and stood there for 9 seconds, it would take you 9 hours to see everything. You think about that. But one word that really, kind of like the Bible, mystery. Mystery. And it became a place of refuge for them. It was easy to defend. Everywhere around us is desolate, barren, hostile country. And it's hard to enter, so it's easy to defend. So in that sense, it became a refuge, okay? And they were, again, very prosperous people. The Romans found out about it, and so they were here, depending on what you read, what I read, from about 400 BC to 100 years after Christ. The Romans did subjugate them at one period of time. And it was unknown for years. What really wiped it out, there was a major earthquake in 336 AD. What happened to these people? The Greeks had influence here. The Egyptians, they still exist. The Romans, but the Nabateans, what happened to them? We don't know. They're very mysterious. They had no written records. Josephus did. He knew some people that knew them and knew some Nabateans, and he wrote about them. But much is unknown. So, what happened to them? We don't know. They don't exist anymore. So, who were they? We don't know. They're obscure. What happened? Romans took over. Were they gone? Don't really know. Where did they go? How did they design and build it? They acquired. They were wealthy people for their time because they became a way station. Again, they controlled trade. One thing I will tell you, so a Swiss explorer found this. I forget the year. I've got it here somewhere. In the 1800s, he found out about it. He dressed himself as a Bedouin. because they were very protected. This was hidden, and they didn't want people to find out about it. So he dressed himself as a Bedouin, came here in town, and that's what it was. I don't know. This is Jordan's #1 tourist attraction. This is like our Graceland for our city. This is like that for the whole state. Their #1 tourist attraction. Where's our tour guide? In 2019, they had 1.1 million people here. That was their best year. I did want to put some spiritual emphasis on it. So, City of Refuge in a lot of ways. But they were pagan people. They adopted the gods of other people. Who was a famous king in the Bible? One of the most famous. And what did he do? Married foreign women. All these foreign gods. Well, that's what these people did. So they did not worship. They were not known to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so City of Refuge, really? Wow. I'm thinking maybe it was a false city of refuge for these people who didn't worship Yahweh. So the word refuge in the Bible is mentioned almost 90 times. Very few times in the New Testament, but in the Old Testament, David mentioned it a lot. Place of safety. Place where you can go in time of need. And that's what the Lord is to us. If you think of some really wonderful Psalms, I've got a couple that but one thing, the surrounding area, we've talked about the Moabites, the Edomites. What happened to those people? Well, we don't know. When Israel was coming through the Sinai and they came to Edom, Moses asked the Edomites, can we pass through your land? We'll even pay you for the water and the food that we eat. And they said no. They said no. Now, you have to understand that Edomites were descendants of Ishmael and Esau. So they were blood brothers. They were blood relatives of God's people, of Israel. They wouldn't let them through. There's one book of the Bible, very obscure book. When you read through the Bible, you read it, but it doesn't really hit you. The book of Obadiah is one chapter. And much of that book talks about God's judgment on Edom. He said, I'm going to take your name away. And he did this for two reasons, it stated in Obadiah. Because of their pride and because of what they did to their blood relatives. And through history, David fought them, Saul fought them. The Edomites were always in conflict with Israel. And God judged them. Remember one of the promises to Abraham, I will bless him that bless you, and I will curse him that curse you. Wow. So, we all know this. Psalm 46, God is my refuge and strength, a very present help in time of need. Therefore, we will not fear. We will not fear. One of the biggest commandments in the Bible is over 300 passages about do not fear, do not be anxious, do not worry. David wrote so much, do not fear. Another one, Psalm 121, I will lift up my eyes to the hills from whence comes my need. My help comes from the Lord. And so in that sense, David, he knew who his refuge is. Who is our refuge? Who is our refuge? Who shouldn't be? These people had idols. They had their own idols. They embraced other idols. One of the things that I read, I don't know, we don't know if it's true, is that they did human sacrifices here. It's disputed. It's really unknown. Again, they didn't have written history, but just a great example of, there's one true God, Yahweh, through his son Jesus, and David with his whole heart, Caleb, Joshua, there are others, Paul, and so who should we go to in a time of refuge, especially in a time of great travail in our world? We have COVID, now we have this worldwide war. We could be fearful of what's going to happen next. We don't know. So that's all I have to say. So I'll end it in a quick prayer. Father God, we come to you. We desire that you would be our hiding place, our refuge, presence, help in time of need, and that we can come to you. You beckon us to come boldly to your throne, and you desire to have a relationship with us. And Father, how often we are so frivolous with our time and our needs and our wants, and you desire to reside with us and in us, Father. So give us a hunger for more, to know you and to seek you. Thank you for these dear people, friends, and go with us and just bless our time together. And we bring you.
Yeah.